He took me and he choke slammed me to the floor, and I'm not even fighting. I'm just like, do your worst. I knew that we're not dealing with a normal person. I was so severely abused that I didn't even know who I was. The harassment and stalking started right after I dropped the charges that I had against him. And about 3 weeks later, my mom then passes away, and she passed away very tragically, and he was the main suspect for my mother's demise. The attack happened on her way back from work. So what I understood was that she was stalked before she passed away, and before, like 3 days before she passed away, somebody during the night went and spray painted on her office wall that she must resign or else, and painted a picture of a gun with weird bullets coming out. And 3 days later, this happens. Now, fast forward to when this guy was now harassing me after mom's passing. He had posted like an A1 paper on my grandmother's gate with all sorts of nonsense written. Now, if you compare what was spray painted on mom's wall and what was on that A1 paper, the same person wrote this. And then we then took a card that he had written to my grandma on her birthday, and it all matched up. So they had spray painted mom's office, and 3 days later, this happened. She was attacked, ambushed on her way back from work. And we tried to alert the police that they need to look into this guy because of the things that he had said, even like written things via text about my mother. There's motive, there's definitely motive. There's a lot of hate in him for my mother for unknown reasons. Mom was the sweetest human being on the planet. I was just at a point where now I'm just trying to heal, to cope, to deal with this whole situation that's happening. Because if it's not one thing, it's the other, and instead of getting better, it's getting worse. I've now lost the closest person to me. It was a lot. It was a lot to deal with. That was by far the darkest time of my life. But that didn't stop him. He continued to stalk me. I managed to, get myself together because I remembered mom's words before her passing about I need to continue and finish my degree, my master's degree. Because I was at a point where I wanted to give up. Like, okay, mom, let me just be a bum. Let me just not do anything. Maybe this guy will leave me alone, because he's realizing that even with my broken ankle, I'm still pushing. I'm still going for the things that I want. I'm still positive. I'm still optimistic. And she said, nope, you will continue your degree and finish it. You will continue to go for all the things that you wanted to go for, even before all of this happened, because your destiny is in your hands. Nobody has the power to control what happens to you in your life. So I managed to get myself together through those words and went and continued with my master's degree. So he continued to stalk me, and it ended when I had to disappear. I had to disappear after my ex sent me hitmen. So it was at that point where he was then unable to find me because he didn't know where I went. On the day that my ex had sent me hitmen, we were coming back from Stanger, my ex and I. So we came back, we parked, and next thing I heard a gunshot behind us. So I look back and I see a guy in all black, balaclava, holding a gun going towards my car. My car is maybe about 5 meters from us. So he goes and he tries to open the door. I guess then he realizes there's no one in the car. And then next thing, as I'm looking at him, another guy comes here on my side of the car now, in his car, this guy's car. And he says, open up. And I'm just like, for ink. You know, what do you mean? And he starts swearing at me, open up, with gun pointed. And then he puts it in and he puts it like to my head. Now I'm like looking at him dead straight, like, chow, I ain't trying to die. And he starts pulling the trigger and it jams. And I'm just sitting there like, is this my day? Is this it? Like, is this happening? At the same time, I'm telling this guy, just go, just move, because the car that they came out of was behind us, blocking us. I said to him, just reverse into it if you have to, but cause a scene, do something. We'll fix the car later if we have to, but we're not dying here today. This is all happening while this guy is busy. He's busy trying to start the car. The car is not starting. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. And then next thing, he reverses and he smashes into the SUV behind us. And then we spun. Guys, it was a movie. And then the car spun, and then at some point the cars were facing each other. This one switches its headlights on, and then we switched on our headlights, and then we drove, and then next thing we drove into oncoming traffic, and then we had a head-on collision with another car, and then they got away. So that's how the whole incident happened, and that's how we got away from it. But how I know that it was him was that he had paid the beggar that sits by the street to always tell him whenever I'm around. Apparently, he came with 3 guys one time, took this beggar into his car, threatened him, wrote his number down, and gave him a phone and told me, you better tell me if she's around speaking about me. The stalking and the harassment, it went on for a very long time. We broke up in 2015. That's when it started. It stopped when he couldn't find me mid-2016, although he was still making my life hell through other means. So he created a website, and he then went and bought page 3 of my local, not even the Natal Witness newspaper, bought page 3 and put an ad there with my face saying that I have started an Undindwa grooming school. And it was a lot. It was really a lot. So it as much as he now couldn't find me physically, he continued to harass me. Called my agency, told them, emailed them rather as a concerned parent. But he emailed them as a concerned parent and saying that if you have this girl in your books, just go look at what she's doing, you know, gives them the link. So my agent goes and sees that, and she calls me. She's like, what the hell is going on? Calls L'Oreal head officers, and he tells them that they need to go see what their face is doing. I suppose I'd say that that ended where he was arrested because he had murdered a girl and burnt her body. How I found out that he had murdered someone else was I was at a friend's house, and one of the journalists that I had worked with before that had published an article where I was talking about the same guy, saying that if you guys don't arrest this person, somebody's going to get hurt. It might not be me, but I've dealt with him. I know what he's capable of. Someone will get hurt. And 7 months later, sure enough, this happens. So she calls me and she says, like, yeah, are you sitting down? So I'm like, yeah, what's up? She says, they've arrested your ex. So I say to her, for what? And then she says, oh, she murdered a girl, took her body to like sugarcane plantations in Cape Tomena, I think it was, and doused her with petrol and burnt her body. I'm like, what? And I realized that that could have easily been me. I got scared, and I really felt terrible for the girl that had to go through this and her family, because I said this would happen, you know, and still, you know, our justice system decided to just shrug and not do anything about it. He is dead, apparently. And I say apparently because this guy he's capable of faking his own death. Like, people always think, oh, but you're so negative. I lived with this human being. I had to deal with him. I ended up, in order to be able to fight him, I ended up having to think like him. I literally had to step into what he's probably thinking in order to stay a step ahead of him and anticipate his attacks. So I wouldn't be surprised if he pops up and I hear that he actually had faked his own death. God has really held my hand through that journey, and I'm now at a place where instead of letting the whole situation that happened to me make me bitter, what it did was more of make me figure out how I could get more women to a place of being healed so that they don't tolerate nonsense from men, and also creating spaces where men can be vulnerable, because I really think that nobody wakes up and decides that they want to be a terrible person. So for me, I really believe men have it hard. They exist in a society where they are told men don't cry. So a man who hasn't dealt with their childhood traumas will naturally manifest their frustrations through being violent, through being an unpleasant person. Whereas if they heal those childhood traumas and really look at them, face them head on, like, there are men that were molested as kids, they can't talk about that, and that will affect them as adults. There were men that were abused as kids. Whatever the case may be, once they are allowed to be emotional and actually talk about these things and deal with them, then I think we can really start paving a way towards a peaceful society.